Rise from your grave.
Yo, what's up, guys?
Oh, hey, you're back.
Did you see Peter Rabbit yet?
Yeah.
Oh. This is Scott,
I'm Ben.
It's TJ.
and this is a review. On today's episode, which is episode 5, we will be reviewing Peter Rabbit. So,
One hop of a time.
Our first theatrical release of 2018.
that's true. It
Yeah.
is. So basically, the plot to Peter Rabbit is you've got Peter Rabbit and his sisters and his cousin. They live together under a tree, and they enjoy looting
Mr. McGregor's garden!
Mr. McGregor's
They loot
garden.
the shit out of it!
They enjoy looting Mr. McGregor's garden, who is played by Sam Neill. And pretty early on, Mr. Sam Neill has a heart attack, and the farm is inherited by his asshole nephew.
American Psycho-esque nephew.
Asshole is a quite frank understatement. As the film goes on, it's quite clear that young Thomas McGregor is a full-blown sociopath, arguably a meta-psychopath.
Yeah, so Domhnall Gleeson, or Domhnall Gleeson, as I...
Donald.
Donald?
Dommel.
Donald? There's no N.
It's silent. It's a weird Irish thing.
But there is an M. Okay,
Correct.
fine. Donald Gleeson.
Gleeson.
Domhnall Gleeson, as us Americans know him, is Thomas McGregor, and he's nuts. He's literally Dennis Reynolds, and
From Always Sunny.
so he moves into the farm, and basically we have a turf war between Peter Rabbit and Thomas McGregor. Thomas McGregor has a love story with Rose Byrne, who takes care of Peter Rabbit and his family.
She's B. There's
B.
Bees?
Beads.
Beads?
It's implied that she is Beatrix, so and so, such and such.
Oh, the one that
the
wrote...
author of Peter Rabbit,
Right.
The original children's novel. Did you guys read that?
Yes, I did.
I did not.
I was getting major nostalgia little waves there when they
Yeah.
were like going into the lore a little bit of like Flopsy Mopsy. And they do that storybook sequence actually was really
Yeah.
nice. They do a nice little homage of like nice hand drawn sort of moving watercolor style, and that was really kind of great. That was really loving. Like it was a sweet little tribute to the book that I really actually appreciated.
That was honestly one of my favorite moments in the movie because it had that same art style and it felt like those old Dr. Seuss cartoons when they would actually animate the actual cartoon page by page. And that's exactly how this felt in the beginning. So they really captured the charm of those old Peter Rabbit storybooks. And so Peter Rabbit himself is voiced by James Corden, who you guys will know from Late Night with James Corden. He does the carpool karaoke thing. That's his big gimmick. He's a British man and he sings. That's what he does.
Tony Award winner.
Yeah.
Tony Award.
What do you win a Tony for? Was it the Into
it was
the
some
Woods?
bullshit on Broadway. I honestly don't know. I don't follow Broadway that. I just know he's one of he is a Tony Award winner.
So I'm not a huge fan of James Corden personally. He seems like a nice guy. I just find him irritating.
He is what he is.
He's just Jimmy Fallon's British cousin.
He is literally the
He's
British Jimmy Fallon.
Fallon's
British Jimmy
British
Fallon.
chubby cousin. He's fine.
It's as far
fine.
he's as far from offensive as humanly possible.
He's
but it's
just
fine.
too sweet. I hate it.
Nice people.
And so, going back to Peter Rabbit, the setup in the first half of this movie is pretty basic. It's kind of a reverse play on Home Alone. Peter Rabbit is pulling pranks on Thomas. I keep forgetting McGregor. I don't know why I keep thinking
Conor McGregor.
Conor McGregor.
He's a fighter.
And the actual animation and the CGI of the rabbits is surprisingly good. Peter Rabbit and his family look like real rabbits. You could feel like the fur is soft and everything. Now, the other animals, a little rough.
A little less love given to the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your boy Thomas McGregor's got some new tricks up his sleeve.
Oh, boy.
In this modern day adaptation. Motherfucker, straight up, there's a sequence where he's running around spamming the grenade button, trying to blow Peter Rabbit and the Rabbit family sky high.
Wait, but can we talk for a moment about Sam Neill? Right?
Yeah,
That's
Sam
the
Neill.
name. Yeah, so
We'll loop it back.
Yeah, we'll loop it back to that because I want to point out that his uncle, right? His
Yeah.
uncle, who he inherits this like place from, just wants to kill the rabbits to make them into pie.
That's his whole life.
That's like his life goal. Is just to like catch Peter Rabbit and make rabbit pie.
And this has been going on so long that B, Rose Byrne, who lives next door, has apparently drawn pictures of him making
The pie?
the pies.
Yeah.
Because, like, Peter Rabbit mentions how the pictures are, like, the sad reminder of their past, and then they go into this backstory. So it's like, oh, so she drew his dead father being eaten by the... Okay, great.
Right. We're not going to read too much into this.
But that brings up a great point, because as I mentioned in the beginning, he dies of a heart attack in the first 15 minutes of the movie.
Pretty graghically.
Yeah, and you
It's
see
all that
it happen.
rabbit pie. It's not very good on the cardiac system.
He's literally, it's from Peter's point of view. They have the opening of the film is him and his siblings carrying out their classic garden heist where they're going to with Mr. McGregor because he's got a lush ass garden.
And they want to steal his vegetables.
Exactly. So they're in the middle of their raid, and he's mowing the lawn, and his lawn, their cover, which is fairly ingenious. Lawnmower breaks, and they get found out.
Yeah.
Mr. McGregor snatches Peter Rabbit by the ears, like, motherfucker, I finally got you. I'm gonna put you in a goddamn pie, and in like extreme close up, literally has a cardiac event, and fucking. He bites it. He bites it.
Peter Rabbit's poking his eye.
Yeah, Peter Rabbit
Yeah, like...
jabs his eye like he's roadkill.
So that brings us to the thing in this movie that I like the most, which is the violence. This is like an old Looney Tunes cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Like they
Very
went
Tom
old
and
school.
Jerry.
It's great. Yeah, Tom and Jerry, Bugs Bunny, like
Classic Three Stooges. It's slapstick as f.
it's Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, the movie. It's Donald Gleason is just the or the Wile E. Coyote
Tom and
coming up
Jerry.
with crazier and crazier schemes to catch these rabbits and failing.
Yeah. And then in turn, the squad of rabbits foils him and often turns his traps against them. There's a scene where he wakes up like he's in The Godfather to rabbit traps all
Yeah.
over, like snapping his hands. He rigs up an electric fence and they recircuit it like in Ozark. Spoilers for Ozark. And fucking murks Donald Gleason like he gets zapped all over his house.
It's some Batman level head trauma going on
Yeah.
here where people would not be getting up and walking away.
No. Like, it is a miracle that Donald Gleason did not suffer a severe spinal injury at some point in the film. Like,
How about the beginning when we first meet him? Or like right after, spoiler if you see the movie, but an event happens that takes him to the ranch. But when he's like in his apartment and he's playing violin, and then you find out he's just like playing along to a violin track and he's like just miming it.
is-
Like this movie's humor is surprisingly funny. Like,
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
It's very meta. It's got this very like almost 21, 22 Jump Street style humor where they're calling out the contrivances of the plot and making fun of the fact that it's a generic kids movie. So it kind of
Or that the
Takes it a
rabbits
step
wear
up.
clothes.
oh, they talk about that all the time. It's
Yeah.
great.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
a lot of those jokes, though,
Yeah.
very much kind of went down the spiral of just explaining what was happening. There were a lot of like anti-jokes where they just kind of say something that's an element of the plot and they say it sort of sassy and that's the joke. Whereas with Lord and Miller, I think that's the next step above.
Yeah.
They're genuinely creative, like exciting filmmakers, and they can take that bullshit like they did in 21 Jump Street, Clyde with a Chance of Meatballs, Lego Movie. Obviously,
Yeah.
they can take that to the next level and like make it feel more real, and they can work with the actors in such a way where the delivery is going to be better and they're more game. But it's fine.
Well, once they get past the initial setup and kind of the playing around with the world and how the rabbits can have fun with messing with McGregor, then you get into the more kind of paint by numbers plot, which is Thomas McGregor falls in love with the neighbor, and it becomes this sort of Peter Rabbit is jealous and is trying to win her affection back, and that's when the movie gets very generic and in this category of like, all right, this is typical kids movie. Can we just get back to them beating the shit out of each other?
But interspersed just enough in this paint by numbers shenanigans are still very consistent spiraling clues that indeed Thomas McGregor is a full-blown
Unhinged.
sociopath.
Well-
And also B, like, she's kind of nuts too.
Well-
Well, what I didn't get is that she calls out McGregor for being all like, oh, it's a conspiracy. The rabbits are active and they're doing this shit. He hit the detonator, et cetera, et cetera. But then she interacts with them like she fully has personified these animals to the point where they're like her children, and she talks to them. And so, like, I don't like that was really inconsistent for me. She's like, "You're nuts because you think the rabbits are in on this shit," but yeah, I treat them literally like children.
So it's one of those, it's the Family Guy thing where nobody else seems to be able, at least in the beginning, nobody can hear Stewie talks, but he talks. And it's like in this movie, the rabbits talk and they wear clothes. And sometimes people can hear them talk and sometimes they can't. And the movie kind of acknowledges it. She acts like he's crazy for saying these things, but does she not see that they're wearing clothes?
Yeah, and then she also in turn interacts with them like they're people.
Well,
She
I would
gets
argue
down to their level and like speaks to them.
I would
Like,
argue that she treats them like someone would treat a pet.
Yeah.
But it's hard to ignore the fact that all the animals are wearing clothes. And this one area, like the rabbits aren't the only ones wearing clothes. Like the foxes wear clothes, the porcupines, etc. Like the pig wears like a pimp coat. They all wear. I get it's weird that he thinks they talk, but they also are already wearing coats. So I don't know where the line is in this. But they do kind of make fun of that. So it is something that they acknowledge. So it's a kid's movie, whatever.
Yeah.
full disclosure, there's definitely some very mediocre to bad and lazy filmmaking on here. It's fairly flatly shot. There's very obvious color corrections and day for night.
And it's got your typical trappings of a kid movie. The characters dance way too much. You've got these birds, which I hate, which come in and sing pop songs all the time. You have pop songs playing almost constantly over montages. So you still have a lot of these irritating kind of trappings of these children's films. But like we were saying, it does kind of transcend that because some of the cartoonish violence and the meta humor kind of steps it up, and it makes it feel more like something that everyone can enjoy, not just the kids.
Exactly.
They know that they're a kids movie, and them poking fun at it is what made it enjoyable for a couple 20-year-olds to see in a crowded theater of children and families that I was overwhelmed by.
This entire auditorium was packed with families and small children, and then us.
And I think I was laughing harder and louder than any of those kids.
Oh, yeah.
Easily. We laughed the most, that's for sure. Us and then like two dads in the back who also just got it the way we got it. I felt like.
Yeah, they were probably laughing at us more than anything.
Maybe, probably, you know.
They're probably like,
I'd see that.
So going back
good old days.
to Donald Gleason, Mr. Thomas McGregor, he is one of our major characters, and his introduction, he's kind of this neurotic toy store manager that misses a promotion. That's kind of what sends him on this spiral to the countryside. And the thing that bothers me the most about this is the fact that him and Rose Byrne, B, get together because he is so dangerously psychotic. Like, this isn't a character that's just got anger issues or is like trying. No, he is like full blown, like Ben said, sociopath.
He's legitimately unhinged.
He's crazy and he's screaming at these rabbits. He's throwing grenades at them. The little dynamite, like cartoon dynamite he gets from the Acme store. Like, it's just.
I would have preferred that he was just a crazy psychopath.
Yeah.
Like, they, from the start, they make him too on the fence, I'm crazy, yet, like, I'm trying to be a good guy, I work in kids' toys. But that makes it even weirder and creepier. I almost would have preferred him be, like, a taxidermist or something, like, straight like a fur coat manufacturer or something, and then have to go to this place and be like, the rodents!
Yes, just him being a flat-out cartoon villain all the way through would have been much better.
Yeah,
because...
give me Cruella DeVille, but, like, played by this guy, Dom G.
100%. And like that would lean into the more, because this, at the end of the day, this is a British children's book. So like the European tradition of children's stories is to have sort of these darker, and you know, even the original novel, I mean, they literally, Peter's dad gets murdered and baked into meat pies. That is a main element of this film and that storybook.
Right.
And Chicken Run.
And Chicken
And
Run.
Chicken Run.
This movie definitely, you could almost tell that the movie that they wanted to make did lean into that a lot more. A lot of the real generic tropey kid shit feels like it was definitely brought to you by the good people at Sony.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how else you explain a movie that, in some elements leans so far into like the meta, very borderline kid adult Wile E. Coyote shenanigans, and then also be so firmly rooted in like what makes kid movies like this so goddamn awful.
The kid movie
sometimes.
formula.
Because they treat, just have to have this bullshit in there just to occupy the kids' attention spans and like treat them like they're dullards. But then it also has stuff that like really is genuinely kind of engaging and fun.
The rooster.
Yeah.
Oh my god, the rooster bit.
TJ, tell us about the rooster.
The rooster bit. So there's a rooster, and the first time you see it, it's cockle-doodle-doo, it's day. Oh my god, it happened again. And it's freaking out that the sun came up, and it's like in disbelief. And it's so funny. And then like they do it a second time, and it gets darker each time you do it. And throughout like this bit, I won't ruin it too much in case you want to go see it, because I'd say it's worth it just for this bit.
Just for the bit.
Just for the bit. There's a couple worthy bits in this movie. But the rooster gets funnier and funnier each time.
Yeah,
and it's dark for a couple moments.
He basically thinks that the world ends every night, and that is so shocked that it didn't end. That's the joke, but then
So
like
he
TJ said,
YOLOs. Let's just put it this way.
he YOLOs and
then regrets it.
and the level it takes it to is so hilarious because it's a kids movie. I think that's what makes it so funny, because it has to do with kids, and it's just like, wow, they're really just like going right for it with it. And I was almost crying. I was laughing so hard when this rooster bit would come on.
Oh, yeah.
And generally speaking, most of the reoccurring bits are pretty funny, other than the fucking birds.
Let me ask you this. Did it make it feel like it was tonally kind of weird sometimes? Like, it didn't feel like it had, like, there was an idea, but it felt like moments of tonal unawareness. It didn't know.
Yeah, it felt a little tone deaf to me in that way, just because the humor was working so well and firing on all cylinders. And then when it would take these 360 turns to like, now we're doing this kid schlock.
Yeah.
It reminds you what kind of movie you're watching. Because we all went into this thinking it was going to be a big joke. We saw this expecting like, oh, this has got a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's a kid's movie. It's Peter Rabbit. We're going to see this and make fun of it. And we all ended up really enjoying it, I think.
I feel like the moment we saw the trailer before Jumanji, we all looked at each other and we're like, so we're seeing that movie, right?
Exactly. That's what happened.
And I like remember that moment. And
Yeah.
Here we are now reviewing the movie.
Yeah, and surprise, surprise, it was pretty good. All right, so I think we're ready for final thoughts. TJ, final thoughts for Peter Rabbit.
Final thoughts for Peter Rabbit. I'd say it's a good movie. It's fun. It kept me laughing throughout. I wouldn't put it above Jumanji because it does have its moments where it falters. I mean, Jumanji does to a certain degree with effects as well when it comes to CG, but this one with the day to night and stuff like that just kind of tweaked me and took me out. But go check it out. It doesn't deserve 58 or however bad people are saying it is. Yeah, it's a fun time.
Great, and if you had to give it a rating out of something out of 10, what would you give it?
My rating of Peter Rabbit is 4 kids, and I'd give it 7.5 rabbit pies. 4 kids. That is my kids' recommendation.
Rabbit pies for kids.
Eat 7.5 rabbit pies while watching Peter Rabbit.
Okay, great. Ben, final thoughts for Peter Rabbit.
I would actually peg this right around where the critics have it. There's some really bad, generic, like borderline unbearable if you're not a child bits in here that are kind of unfortunate, but amidst those enough throughout the film, there's a really, really kind of hilarious slapstick live action cartoon that really I was really game for I'd say 60% of the time. I'd give this a 6 radishes out of 10.
Okay.
This was a great time at the theater.
Great. And for myself, I surprisingly had a really fun time with this. I think that it is one of the better young kid type movies out there like this, and the humor works for people. I wouldn't recommend it that if you're an adult, run out to the theaters and go see this. If you have kids, absolutely. But I have to give Peter Rabbit 6.5 rabbit traps out of 10.
I think this movie is going to go on to become sort of a cult classic, like maybe Space Jam-esque level
Okay.
of like, we're gonna, a new generation and more people of our demographic are gonna discover this on home media and turn this into sort of an event.
A cult classic.
Yeah.
So you're saying that basically this is going to get adopted for adults, and then in 5 years or 10 years, we're going to see the rated R adult Peter Rabbit sequel that we've all been waiting for, right?
Oh yeah, from like Seth and Evan.
Where we see Peter Rabbit cook humans, Mr. McGregor,
Makes
into a human pie.
Peter Rabbit goes on a full Cartman arc.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Yes! Yes! Oh, let me taste your tears.
General Hux.
Your tears are so yummy and sweet. Dude, I think it might be best for us to never piss Peter off again. Good call. Oh, the tears of
General Hux.
yummy. Yummy, you guys. That's all, folks.
I don't think any other moment could be better than this to end our review. So, this has been a review. I'm Scott.
I'm Ben.
I'm TJ.
Thanks for listening.